Hello again. Welcome back to the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, myself, Kwani Lunis. I said welcome back because hopefully at this point you're a loyal listener. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you know that you are listening to this podcast. We want to give a shout out to PrizePicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. If you download the app today, you get $50 off in bonuses actually after your first $5 lineup. And as a friendly reminder, you are listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is also where you'll find our podcast, past and present, as well as other great Celtics content. So now let's talk about the Celtics. Celtics kick off free agency. So many moves to be made. They got Luka, not that Luka. I like the way those were in. Luka Garza, 26-year-old big man who played sparingly last season for the Timberwolves. He appeared in 39 games last season, averaged 2.5 points a game, 1.4 rebounds in 5.5 minutes per game. And he's played 124 games total over the last 4 seasons. A little more background, he was drafted by Detroit in 2021. So Sherrod, Gary, your expectations for the Luka, not Luka.
That was for Gary, because I know how much Gary loves that kind of wordplay.
Yeah.
Not that Luka, the other Luka.
The other Luka.
It'll be interesting to see what he gives, because first and foremost, he's a guy that hasn't really been in a situation where the opportunity to play was present and available. You look at the guys that played ahead of him in Minnesota, he wasn't beating none of those guys out. He's not going to beat out Naz Reid. He's not going to beat out, Gobert. He wasn't going to beat any of those guys out. And frankly, there just wasn't a clear path towards him getting on the floor. So the potential for him to play is significantly greater in Boston. And I'm intrigued with what they're going to get, because you look at his career trajectory to where he's at now. There are some similarities between where he's at now and where Luke Kornet was when Luke came to Boston. We'll see if he can have a similar growth in terms of his game, but more importantly, can he be someone who can impact winning the way Luke was able to near the end of his time in Boston. So I think it's to me, it's one of those low risk, high reward potential opportunities that the Celtics have been very good at taking advantage of. When you look at some of the guys that they have gotten from other places where maybe they didn't have a clear defined role, that come to Boston and have a much clearer and more defined and frankly more impactful role. We'll see if this Luka can have that impact for the Celtics.
Yeah. I think this is an example of what we've talked about and what is going to have to happen in Boston in terms of how they change their roster. And they don't have the money to go after big free agents. But what they do have, what they think they have, is the scouting and the assessments of getting players who can grow in the Boston system. And they've signed 2 guys. Obviously, they signed Garza, and they just signed a kid named Josh Minot, who was another kid on the end of the Minnesota bench. And people are like, well, who are these guys? I don't know them. I never heard of them. They don't play they ain't got no run.
Who that dude? That's what he was saying.
Who he played for. So when you have those players, the Celtics know that they're unknowns and unproven. You want to go just like Sam Hauser, just like Luke Kornet, and you want to cultivate them to where they can be contributors. Luka Garza is a guy who was kind of, not to be funny, but Caitlin before at Iowa, before Caitlin. He was a storied All-America at the University of Iowa, Big Ten, All-American, Big Ten player of the year, like this amazing athlete, amazing hooper at University of Iowa before Caitlin got there.
National Player of the Year. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Like, he was a beast at Iowa, but he was a great college player. It does not translate to the NBA. He's gotten in premium shape. Now he's cut. He's gotten his conditioning there. But he just hasn't been able to, like Sherrod said, with Naz Reid and Gobert and Julius Randle and McDaniels, and they got a bunch of forwards in Minnesota. He wasn't going to play. So now this is a chance for him to compete for a backup spot in the middle or power forward a chance for him. He plays hard. I think he's improved his shot. He's gotten himself in as I said before, good shape because he was kind of bulky when he came out of Iowa. Now he's cut. So this is a chance for him to prove himself. He doesn't have any real tread on his tires. 124 games over 4 years, right? So he is ready to prove himself. The same with Minot. Minot's 22 years old, 6'8" swing man. He's a guy who could probably replace eventually like a Jordan Walsh. Jordan Walsh better watch out because people are going to come and take his spot. So this is exactly what I said would happen. I'm not talking about some soothsayer or I got ESPN.
Okay, Mr. Cleo. Mr. Cleo.
Yeah. But this is the example of what the Brass is going to have to do. You pluck guys from other teams. They're lesser known guys, just like they did with Luke Cornett and Derek White, and you put them in roles where they can succeed. You put them in a system where they can improve. Now you bring Garza, you bring Minot here. They work out all summer. Then they get in with the guys in the preseason workouts, the pre-camp workouts in September. And then by the time they're in training camp, they're ready to go. Joe Mazzulla, I'm sure, gives them and the coach now gives them a workout plan. This is what we want you to improve on, et cetera, et cetera. So now this is what you have to do. This is the transition from being a second apron salary cap team to being the first apron or just a taxpayer team. You got to get cheaper and you got to get more athletic and you got to get some dudes who are hungry, who are straight up they want food. They hungry. They want to eat, and you get two guys on 2 minimum contracts. Exactly. There you go, Sherrod. Anyway, 2 guys.
Making me hungry.
Yeah. Sherrod, yeah. We said hungry, Sherrod, not thirsty.
I don't got food in front of me. My liquid.
Never scare me.
Anyway, so this is I don't know. I know a lot about Luka Garza. Do I think he can be a 15, 20-minute a game guy? We'll see. But I know he'll play hard for his spot. It's a new opportunity for him, and it's time for him to put up or shut up because he's been in the league 4 years now. This is a guy I said. College player of the year, a guy who had a storied career. They did all the Big Ten Network bios on him because he was that good at Iowa. He played with the Murray twins for a hot minute. Before Caitlin Clark got there, he was the man at Iowa. He was the best athlete. He was the big person on campus in terms of before Caitlin Clark got there, and then she became obviously a generational player. So, to be honest, I like the moves. Is it gonna make Celtic Nation excited? The Luka Garza and Luke? No, they're not. But they gotta give a chance to prove themselves. So, this is what you got to do, and this is what happens when you rebuild or retool.
Yeah, but Gary, you already kind of answered the question, which we talked about last week. To your point, Brad Stevens has to make moves, Derek White where you are giving these lesser name players an opportunity to prove themselves. Because the question was, why not pick someone with a proven track record? But the reality is that the Celtics can't afford to do that right now.
So they ain't got no money. They're like Smokey at the ice cream truck. We were trying to give his money to Big Worm. 20, 40, flip it over. 60,
80. Gotta make with what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Brad gotta make it enough.
Quarters nickel dime.
So they don't have the money to do they should go after all these people are gonna want money. They're gonna want 10 million. We're gonna talk about Luke. They paid Luke $41 million a year. Let's be really honest here. Were the Celtics going to pay Luke $41 million over 4 years? That was a good amount of money. Not today. They just can't afford it. I'm sure they maybe said maybe $28 million. Who knows what they offered him before he went to the Spurs? And he's going to the Spurs to be a backup. Okay, so this is not he's going to go there and start. He's playing behind Wemby. So let's not get carried away. I wrote today, they didn't lose Bill Russell. And I like Luke, all the best. He worked hard. He's turned himself into a quality NBA player, but they can replace Luke Luke Cornett. Now, somebody is going to have to step up, whether it's Kada, Luka Garza, somebody going to have to step up. It's put up or shut up time for a lot of these guys, the Jordan Walshes, JD Davidson, dudes who've been chilling like, bro, man, they it's time for them to step up. And we'll see. And I don't know if we'll see if Jordan's going to play summer league this year. I would think not. Or I know JD ain't playing. He's, he'll be a summer league all-time leading scorer if he plays again. But it's like, so they're gonna have to prove it in camp and playing for their Kwani. Come on now.
Sorry, I know it's so funny. I'm sorry.
Playing in camp.
I know you didn't mean it that way.
I mean, look, Gary, not everybody can be Shammond Williams where you become like the summer league all-time great scorer.
Yeah, all summer league, Mount Rushmore summer league,
right?
Like to me, this is put up or shut up time for a lot of guys, including Jordan. Especially the guy I pointed is Jordan Walsh. Like, okay, Jordan, you've hung around for 2 years. You got a championship ring. You've been around the veterans. What is it now? Like, time to spend the summer in the lab and come back a new guy, because somebody's there to take your spot. And we'll see what else the Celtics do in terms of trying to fill out that roster and maybe get another player that we probably have not heard of. Jasper is not a guy. You'd have to be really a diehard NBA fan to know who this guy is. But he's only 22. He's 6'8". So let's see what he's got.
Just give everyone an opportunity while they have it, at least.
Yes.
But you mentioned Luka. Obviously, the name makes it more fun to talk about. For Luke, though, let's talk about him. Agreed to that 4-year deal worth $41 million, like you said, in San Antonio. Do you think he's a good fit in San Antonio, despite the fact, like you said, he will be playing back up to Wemby?
I think he's a great fit. I think he's a great fit because they're going to have enough talent around him to where you're going to basically need him to play fairly close to where he was in Boston. And that is a guy that can get you some rebounds, a guy that's going to be a decent defender, will set, good screens, can roll to the basket, do a lot of the things that he did in Boston. And I think he'll fit in well there. Now, does that mean that they're going to now all of a sudden become a championship caliber team? No. But he definitely moves the needle in the right direction for them to, at a minimum, be a legitimate playoff contender as long as they can keep their core guys healthy, including, obviously, Wemby.
Yeah, I think he adds stability. I think the Spurs have a good culture. Luke's a culture guy. He'll run through brick walls. He'll chase rebounds down. He'll play hard. He'll block shots. He'll do all the little things that they need. He'll fit very well into their system. And
make lemon square cakes.
Yeah, he's a quality guy, a quality player. So I have no question that he'll flourish. Sherrod, is it good?
You thirsty as hell.
Oh my God.
Oh, let's talk about Luke making me thirsty.
Kwani, go get your boy.
That's not my boy.
God, damn, Sherrod.
Let's talk about Luke is making me thirsty.
Wait till the PrizePicks read. Then you get all the drink you want.
Wait, you can drink as much as you need. Wait, that was really good.
It's good.
Wait, you mentioned. Did you say Luke made lemon cakes?
Lemon squirt, yeah.
Lemon squirt. So, what do you guys think the Celtics are going to miss most from him?
Besides the lemon,
because I was like, man, I didn't get to try the lemon cake. I'm mad.
The thing that Luke does that I think they're going to probably miss the most is the little subtle things he does to help guys get shots. I mean, the screens, the rolling to the rim, where teams sometimes find themselves in that no man's zone where do we stay with the roller or do we stay with the ball handler? And if we get confused, that's going to lead to somebody getting a great look at the basket. It's little things that Luke does. He is not someone who statistically is going to wow you. He never has, and I don't think he ever will. But he does so many little things that help the guys around him be better and do the things that they do well. So they'll miss that. They'll miss that because when you look at the guys they have on this roster still, there's no one that really clearly fits that particular mold. And, Luka Garza coming in here, I don't expect him to be Luke Cornett. I think he's a better scorer, I think, than Luke. I think there's some things he can be a little bit more of a physical player than Luke. But at the same time, I think Luke has a much better feel for how to impact the game without trying to take over the game. It's going to take Garza a little bit of time to figure out where he fits in part because it's going to be a different team than the one that Luke played for. So I think he'll be all right. I think both Luke in San Antonio and Luka in Boston, I think both of those guys are going to be okay, over the long haul.
I think Luke they'll miss just kind of like the energy, the personality, and all of what, the jokes, and he's a very intelligent guy, Vanderbilt grad, and obviously, and what we don't know, people talk about his dad played in the NBA, so it's interesting. He's a legacy guy. His dad didn't play a long career, but his dad did play in the NBA for a hot minute. So I think just the energy, and then eventually he learned how to play with the toughness, the shot blocking, just not backing down, not being too nice out there. We always, especially me, was hard on Luke for being just a nice guy on the floor. And hey, it's okay, you can dunk on me, or passing up on dunks when he's trying to lay it in. I mean, and things like that. Like, Luke, you 7 foot, man. Like, quit being like a reluctant 7-footer. Own 7 feet. Like, God put you on earth as a 7-footer. Play basketball, man. Go.
So you're going to preach.
Yeah, use that 7 feet to your advantage. You're 7 feet.
Pastor Washburn.
Wow.
You 1% of the people, less than
7 feet tall.
Less than 1% of the people are 7 feet, and you're one of them. Take advantage.
You're the chosen one.
And it got him, yes, it got him $41 million, and I think he'll be fine. But I think the Celtics will miss that kind of energy. Now, what can happen? What can someone do something better? Can Kata? Kata's a better rebounder than Luke, but Kata makes a lot of the pick and roll mistakes, defensive mistakes, too much. He's got to clean up his act. Will he step up? So I think the Celtics will miss that stability in the middle, and we don't know what's going to happen with Al Horford, but it looks like Al gone too. And let's be honest, guys, like, why would Al come back to this team? They're not going to win a championship. He's 39 years old. He wants another championship because, as Sherrod has mentioned over the years, like, Al is probably going to the Hall of Fame. He'll be candidate.
He's going.
Right. He's going to be like 2 championships in college because they count the college resume, 2-time college champion, NBA champion, kind of helped revolutionize the game with the stretch 4 in terms of like being able to change his game, and him, Brook Lopez, guys who would have been out of the league, would have been Dwight Howard, would have been Andre Drummond, would have been just bouncing around and kind of like just guys, big guys with little use until they learned how to shoot the 3. And so why not chase another championship? And I don't think anyone in Boston would blame him for that. So why would Al? And I said, I like Al, but it's time for this team to get a tad bit younger. With Jason gone next year, likely all of next year, it's time for them to get a little bit younger and let Al go chase that title, whether it's LA or Golden State. I know Golden State's hot after him. Mm-hmm. They just lost Kevon Looney to the Pelicans. So
Joe Dumars, my guy.
Yeah, there you go, Sherrod. Sherrod's on one today.
Wait. What's in that cup?
I know, something in that cup.
You had a stressful meeting. Okay, well, it's funny because, Gary, I don't know if you ever do look at the rundown, but you have set this up so perfectly. I don't even think I need to be here today. But let's talk about Al Horford. Like you said, the latest report is that there's serious considerations by the Lakers for Al Horford. Obviously, other teams, Golden State, New York, Denver, among other teams vying for Al. But what do you think? You mentioned he's looking for a ring, which, as you said, he should be looking forward to. But what does that end up looking like for him if he decides to leave Boston? Or should he give Boston one more shot?
You mean like Biggie Smalls, one more chance?
Despite the circumstances. And you have to think about the circumstances, too.
Yeah. Al, there's a shot that he comes back, but it's not a good one. And for a lot of the reasons Gary laid out already, but I think if you're Al, you understand that your window is closing quickly. And for Al, he's had a great career, and I think he's no different than anyone else who's nearing the end of the finish line. You want to finish on top. Yeah. I mean, the perfect ending for Al Horford would be to win an NBA title in his last year. And I think Al he's recognized, and I think he's embraced the reality that final year is a lot closer to him than it is for a lot of guys in this league. I mean, it would not surprise me if Al signs with a team, they win an NBA championship in 2026, and Al calls it a day.
As he should.
But
he would have to be able to successfully predict what team is going to win the finals next year.
But the thing about Al that I don't think he gets enough credit for is that, for the most part, the places that he has been have been extremely consistent when it comes to winning. You look at those years in Atlanta, they were a playoff team damn near every year. In fact, I think they were every year that Al was there. Here in Boston, his teams consistently go deep into the playoffs, and they won a title. Other than Philadelphia and Oklahoma City, which were kind of like bad pit stops where they said, we're going to pay you. Well, Philly said, we're going to pay you way more than you're probably worth at this point to basically babysit Joel Embiid / make sure that you ain't locking down. You don't sun him like you keep doing in the playoffs.
When you're in Boston,
Al Horford in Boston was sunning Joel consistently in the playoffs. And so I understood why they overpaid for it.
I remember the memes.
Yeah. The memes where there's a face of a baby with Embiid's face on the baby, and Al is the daddy just spanking him. Yeah. Facts. Yeah. But Al, I think that Al's going to go somewhere where he's going to get a chance to be a contributor to a team that has the potential to go deep into the playoffs. I'm not sure Golden State makes the most sense because, honestly, you get the West. Golden State maybe 4th or 5th best team out West, maybe. So if it comes, I think what the best shot that the Celtics have of keeping Al is that he looks at all the realistic options and realize that those teams have no better shot at getting to winning a championship than he does in Boston. So why not stay in Boston? Your family's comfortable, your kids are comfortable. You know, they understand how to manage your minutes better than anyone else does. And a year from now, you're going to be well rested. Jason Tatum will be back, and then you can really kind of embrace that 26-27 season as your finale. And you better believe if Jason Tatum's coming back in 26-27 and he knows Al Horford that's his last year, that's added focus and motivation for these guys to try to bring Banner 19 to Boston.
Well, I'll put Al staying on my bingo card then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very nice story.
Dang, he said
he about to do that. He about to step in cold water.
But I just think you got to move on. And I'm not saying get rid of Al, but him just chilling a year, like cold crushing for a year until Jason gets back. Nah.
But Gareth, where do you go? What team do you go to? New York?
I think. I mean, you would hope not New York.
I know that's the hard part. Everywhere he goes would be controversial for
Golden State. Golden State is in a desperate pressing to win right now, and they're probably going to bring back Jonathan Kuminga, and that's that would be huge for them. There's a lot of possibilities in Golden State. I think that's probably the best, but it's also 3,000 miles away. His family's comfortable. The question is, if the Celtics, it's great. You want to see Al retire in green, but you want him to play 2 more years. You want him to be out there 41. Like, I don't know. His numbers are dropping. He's not the impactful player he was. He's going to play 60 games. Like, to me, it's nice. If you want to do the Udonis Haslem thing for him, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think and he's obviously more useful than Udonis was in his last few years. But if you want to do the Udonis thing, that's cool. But to me, you might need the roster spot. You might want to, if Al's like, hey, I'm gonna take the $5 million, or I'm gonna take, but if somebody's offering him $12 million, and like, I don't know, I think he just kind of Sherrod, he can still come back. He could come back like as retired. He could he could come back. He might get his number retired now. I'm gonna drop a bomb on this thing here. Like the Gap Band. I'm gonna drop a bomb. I think the Celtics should make a play for Damian Lillard. That's what I think. Damian Lillard is been waived by the Bucks. We just today waived and stretched, so no one's gonna pick up that contract. Ain't nobody
that joke.
Huh?
I said that he waved back. Every year I find a way to get that joke in.
Oh God!
Sorry, his contract. Yeah, why should they be?
Yeah. Thanks, Kwani. You've thrown it all off now.
I'm sorry. I can't help
myself. No, Kwani, he didn't wave back. Dang. Anyway, this is what I think.
If he waved back to the Bucks, he waved back with one finger.
Yeah, one finger.
That's a good one.
He wasn't telling Milwaukee they're number one either.
Right.
So this is what I think. Okay. I think you don't give Dame, you don't have the money to give Dame. You have the taxpayer mid-level $5.6 million. You sign to a 2-year deal. You let him rehab. Yeah, you let him rehab with Jason next year. He's coming back from the torn Achilles about a month before Jason did. And then you really compete in 26, 27. You got him and Jason along with Derek, Jalen, and then you find a bit. Oh yeah, Al. Al be back too. Right. They gonna bring back Luke. And you find a big man and you go all out, balls to the wall in 26, 27. Because you got to take advantage of Jason and Jalen's time. And to me, I think that's something they should seriously consider. Let Dame rehab in Boston. He's going to miss most of the year. He's not expensive because he's already getting paid by Milwaukee. You kind of troll Milwaukee by taking another one of their players as you did with Drew Holiday, right? You did that a couple years ago. Dame comes up. He rehabs. He's as motivated as ever. He mad. They just basically dumped him. So
you have 4 good games.
Yeah, you don't think
home against Milwaukee.
Yep. So to me, that's something they should consider if they have. Now, if it's going to put them in the second, it's going to don't do it. But you have in the first apron the taxpayers mid-level. If you can talk Dame into coming, now you have 2 guys. You have to be useful with your roster because 2 guys next year on your roster who aren't going to play. But if you're not going to win next year, why not let him rehab, be a mentor to Peyton, let him rehab with Jason, bond there. In 26, 27, a motivated Dame who still has something left, and Jason, Jalen, Derek. Like it's you really, the only thing it really does is take up a roster spot because you're not paying him $25, $35 million because he's already getting paid by Milwaukee. Whoever he goes to, Miami, whoever, people talk about back to Portland. Our friend Chris Haynes threw that out there. They ain't paying him nothing. So why, if the Celtics, wouldn't you just think about that? Think about that. You want to come back, like you want to take a year off, right? You're gonna take the lumps. You're gonna get punched in the face. You're gonna get mollywopped. You want to in 26, 27. You want to be like, all right, we here for payback.
Mollywop.
Yeah. Yes.
We need to say mollywop.
Yes. We here for payback. It's payback time. We got a list of suckers.
Okay, Jay Crowder.
Exactly. We got a list of suckers.
Really.
Knicks, suckers.
Everybody
suckers. Bucks, suckers. Pacers, suckers. We got a list of suckers. We're going to cross off in 26, 27. So to me, the Celtics should seriously consider if Dame's like, I don't want to come to Boston. I don't want to, like, okay, then you just move on. But if he's like, this is your best chance to try to win a championship before you retire, because remember, Dame is 35. Like, why not kick the tires on it and see what if you're gonna like not win next year, why not have 2 all-NBA players waiting to get back in 26, 27 and be like, all right, like, what's up now? What do you think, Sherrod?
I'm just trying to marinate over them getting mollywop. That's
Exactly. Nobody wants to be mollywop.
No, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that smoke. They don't want that mollywop smoke. No, listen, here's the thing, Gary, and you touched on this, but I think this is a much bigger deal, and I think it's why the Celtics will be reluctant to do this deal is because you don't have one, you got two guys coming back from a major injury, the kind that's sidelined them both, and I'm not sure if the Celtics will be as comfortable and confident leaning on Lillard, knowing that whenever you come back from this type of injury, particularly for someone at his age, advanced age, he's going to lose minimum probably 2 steps that from what he's used to. So if he's not able to create space the way he is accustomed to doing with any kind of consistency that we've seen throughout the course of his Hall of Fame career, it's going to make his job somewhat frustrating at times for him because the body ain't going to be able to do what the mind knows it can do. And it's going to make it, I think, a little bit, he's going to get, I think, more in shot chucking mode than he normally is because he's trying to find a way to get it going when, like, you got guys like Jalen Brunson who's sticking with you as if they are like Marcus Smart or Gary Payton. That should never happen. That should never happen. And I think that's what you'll see.
I would say this, Sherrod, to your point. He doesn't have to be the number 1 guy or the number 2 guy. Or even
he shouldn't be, can't be.
Or even the number 3 guy.
He should be number 4 at best.
Jason, Jalen, and probably Derek. So
or Richard.
Dame is your number 4 guy or number 3 guy. I'll take that.
Yeah.
A motivated Dame.
Well, here's my question to you, Gary.
Because you're trying to win in 26, 27. You got to take advantage of the window you have. Remember, we watched Allen, Pearson, Garnett get together. And they won 1 title, right? In 09, Kevin Garnett got hurt. In 10, they lost in Game 7. In 11, LeBron showed up in Miami, and they only won 1 championship, right? And as much as that team is beloved, they got 1 chip. If this team gets 2, because you can't just be like, oh, well, Jason got plenty of time left. We don't know. Jason 27. Jalen's going to be 29 October. This is the time. This is their prime. They're entering their prime, right? So for me, I tend to think you need to try to take advantage. And then Dame plays 1 more year after that, and then he goes and signs another big deal with somebody else. You sign him for $5 million. Yeah. It's a low risk move if he's cool with it. Now, if he's going to turn around and be pouting, but it's his best chance to win a championship because Oklahoma City ain't signing him, Houston ain't signing him. So, where are all these teams? Where's his chance to get a chip? Miami? Yeah, you go to Miami. Who you gonna play with? Bam, that's it. Even Duncan Robinson done got out of there. Miami's not ready to win a chip. So if I'm Dame, I'm thinking I got to sacrifice 2 years here. I'm gonna work out, and he can also be a mentor to Anthony Simons, who's going to be there next year. We don't know whether Simons will be in Boston long term, but it's something to me that you would think about. And remember, everybody thought Brad was crazy when he got Drew Holiday. He saw Drew Holiday and was like, come on now. Whoa, that's a lot, and how did that work out? It worked out pretty well.
Well, here's, Gary, the point that you brought up, and to me, it's the one thing that I don't have a feel for. I don't think the Celtics have a feel for, and there's nothing that Dame has done at this point that make you feel comfortable that this can happen, and that's accepting the diminished role and reality of your game. Is he willing to accept the fact that Dame Dollar is more like Dame's 75-cent piece right now? He ain't $1 no more. I'm not getting with Dame Dollars on the court. I'm not getting $1 no more. I'm getting less than $1. I'm getting change in $1.
So he's corny. He's Dame 50 Cent.
He's not quite 50 Cent. I give him a little bit more than that, but he's Dame not Dame.
Dame 70. He 3/4 Dame.
He 3/4 game. I got one of them right here. His game is off by this much now, by that much. But I don't know if he is willing to accept the fact that you're going to have to be the third or fourth option.
That's a good point.
To you, to me, to those of us who watch the game, to those of us who've seen championship teams put together, it seems like it's a pretty easy thing to do. But when you've been that number one option everywhere you've been for as long as you've been in the league, it's hard to, I think, wrap your mind around the idea that there's going to be at least 3 or 4 guys that are better than me. There are going to be at least 3 or 4 guys who are going to get that number called to take shots, and I ain't going to be one of them. How is he going to mentally wrap his arms around the likelihood that his quest to win a championship, if in fact that is still something that he is seeking, is going to require him to humble himself and no longer be Dame Dollar, but be Dame less than $1 in order to make that happen? Because to me, Dame less than $1 can help you win a championship.
Right. Don't stop calling him that. That's insulting. That's insulting.
He's a great Gary. He's a great player. He is going to be first ballot Hall of Famer. But let's stop
calling him that.
I'm spiraling with laughter.
Stop calling him that. That ain't cool.
Dame, if you happen to watch this, we don't mean any disrespect.
I ain't calling you Dame Dollar.
But we're
He's
together.
Dame Dollar to me.
So you gotta.
This time, that's Dame Dollar.
We get what you're saying, Sherrod. We get what you're saying.
He's not.
To respect
Sherrod called him Dame 65 cent. You ain't right.
I said 75. Get it right.
I can't believe you.
I love it.
Unbelievable.
There's still so much more to talk about But before we do that, like I've said before, for those of you that are listening, we just want to ask that you subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. Like and leave a review. And for those of you that are watching the show on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content on a regular basis. Also, make sure you turn on those post notifications so you know the moment a new video drops. So let's look ahead. There's obviously still so many moves being made right now. And I actually, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Celtics are technically, as of right now, we're recording on Tuesday, back over the second apron reportedly because of that Josh Minot signing. So that's a whole other conversation to be had. But what does the future look like for Boston, that being said? And how do they move forward?
Well, Kwani, before we get to that question, we will get to it. Just want to tell our listeners a little bit about PrizePicks, which is where they can still cash in on the competition that's going on throughout the summer. Obviously, baseball is picking up, and PrizePicks has got you covered as America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Don't miss your chance to cash in while watching your favorite teams and athletes compete this summer. With PrizePicks, you can obviously mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players with folks from soccer, esports world, and much, much more. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks, which is, again, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So how do you get in? It's real simple. You download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Now, Kwani, your question is a good question.
Thank you.
The Celtics, I think, are still going to be a competitive team. I still think that they're going to be in that playoff mix, but are they in that top tier? Are they getting behind the velvet rope? Nah, they're not. They're just not there. They've got some interesting moves they can make. They've got a lot of young players that they're going to be evaluating, and some of them are going to hit. I think there's going to be at least one young player that we are going to be talking about that is going to exceed what the expectations are, at least early on. But I think they're going to strike out a few times, which is understandable because that happens. It's just how this stuff works. So ultimately, I think the Celtics will be a playoff team, but I don't anticipate that they're going to have a roster that can give them potential to make that deep playoff run that their fan base and they, as players, are so accustomed to doing year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll get back under the second apron. I think this is temporary. They'll figure some things out. They're not going to enter next season under the second apron, which means they might have to trade. Who knows? I think there's three candidates of trades. You could trade Georges Niang, $8.5 million. You could try to get second round picks for him and trade them basically for pennies on the dollar and get nothing for him. You could trade Sam Hauser, try to get some kind of a return on Sam Hauser. Or you can trade Anthony Simons and try to get I don't know what return you would get on him. Obviously, a high value player makes $27 million. Could you get a first round pick?
Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe. But what team is going to want to has a cap space to take on a $27 million player? So you'd have to take less in return. And then what kind of player are you going to get back? Are you going to get pennies on the dollar for that? So I think it's difficult, but I just think they'll cut corners. Remember, like Jordan Walsh's contract's not guaranteed. Neither is J.D. Davidson. So they could make some moves. They have until the beginning of the season to all shake this out. So I wouldn't be concerned that they're back in the second apron. I think they're just shaking things out with salaries right now, and we'll see how that goes. But I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for clarifying on that too. That being said, we obviously, again, still so many moves that are continuing to be made as we even talk. But now that you've seen some of the decisions that Brad Stevens has been making, what is something that you still want to see on the Celtics roster?
What you want to see, Gary?
I mean, I think they need to get a legitimate big.
When it won't get mollywopped.
Yeah, won't get mollywopped. So is that Luka Garza? They need to get a starting center. Is that having faith in Neemias Queta? Is that getting a guy who might be, remember too that this free agent market is going to squeeze people out, and there's going to be some people and some quality players are going to be looking for veteran minimums in a couple of weeks because they did not get the money that they wanted, right? And I think the Celtics would be prudent to wait for a while to see what guys get squeezed out, because obviously, there's no high money players left. Really, there's no $40 or $50 million players who are going to sign. So now we're talking about the Horfords. We're talking about guys who are making 10, 12, 15 million or whatever. There's going to be trades, but there's also going to be a group of players who might be looking for deals and then are going to be like, yeah, I was looking for 10 million, but shoot, now I'll just take 3, and that's the unfortunate part of this new free agency where the middle class and some of the lower class really get squeezed out. So I think the Celtics, remember, they signed Dennis Schroeder, several years ago because of that same situation. I think he signed him for like the taxpayer mid-level of $5.6 million, I want to say, because nobody signed him and he was looking for a gig and he came on, right? So that's probably going to have to be what the Celtics do. They're just going to have to be patient. There's nobody out there that, unless you want to, maybe Al, but there's nobody out there who's like, man, they got to get this guy right now, or that like they can stand to be patient to fill out their roster. There's no big names out there that are going to make them a championship team next year. So what you want to do is try to get a quality big man. Is that guy already on the roster? We'll see. But I have I have all the full confidence that they'll be fine, that they'll figure this whole thing out, and they will take advantage and probably sign a player who they did not, and folks did not expect because they got squeezed out of the market.
Let me ask you a question, Gary, though. When you talk about, big names and the likelihood of them signing one is unlikely because there aren't that many. What do you think about Ayton, who he's going to get his bread elsewhere?
DeAndre has a bad reputation. The people I've talked to in Portland, he's just, he's just descended. He's from the days in Phoenix. He had a real good stretch there, and then he didn't get along with Monty Williams on that during that finals run, and it's been downhill ever since. And he can shoot the mid range when he's motivated. He can be a real good player, but Maybe it was just playing in Portland, but his reputation is soiled. And now he's going to go to the Lakers and play with LeBron and Luka. You hope that he steps his game up if that happens. But I wouldn't take a chance on him. I just think the negative impact in the locker room, I don't think he's a winning player. I think he puts up empty numbers. But he could he could change some things in LA or wherever his next location will be and try to be that guy who, kind of makes that mid-career change and becomes a winning player and fulfills the expectation. Remember, number 1 overall pick, taking over Trey, taking over Luka. I mean, people don't really think about that because he's been okay, but that wasn't a great first number 1 overall pick. In hindsight,
even on draft night, it wasn't.
You want to throw that in,
but more so.
And you want to throw in, make it worse. SGA was also in that draft, so yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how people feel about that 2003 draft where Darko went number 2 ahead of D Wade, ahead of Chris Bosh. I mean, shoot all the way down to Kurt Heinrich would have been a better pick.
Carmelo.
I was waiting for you. I said that for you guys.
No, don't do that.
I'm sorry. It just
because I just knew Gary was going to mention Melo because
the Pistons could have taken Chris Kaman. He was like from Central. He was from Michigan. The Pistons could have taken Chris Kaman. That would have worked out better. Yeah. Like he was from Central Michigan. He was like a local kid. He had a 12-year career. So yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to be part of that with Ayton anymore. Yeah, you're right.
That makes sense. All right, so where the Celtics stand now, again, I'm going to keep using the disclaimer because we are still in the midst of things being moved around. But do you think the Celtics are a top 6 team in the East at this point?
That's a good question. At best, they're 6.
Okay.
At best, they're 6.
That's why I think it's 6, not 5. Top 5.
There's at least 5 teams I think that are clearly better than the Celtics right now. And they are one of I'd say maybe 2 or 3 teams that are going to be in that 6, 7, 8 conversation. So,
yeah. So list them. New York.
Teams that are better than them. I think Atlanta is better than, and this is in no particular order. Atlanta, I believe, is better than them. New York, I believe, is better than them. Cleveland, I believe, is better than them. Orlando. Did I mention Orlando yet?
Yeah, I said it.
Okay. Orlando's better than them. And I would say there's one other team I'm forgetting of that might be that I think is better. Indiana? Hell no.
No. Okay.
Especially after Miles Turner got that brick. Got that Milwaukee brick. So they're okay. Bottom line is there's a handful of teams that are clearly better than the Celtics. And there's some certain things have to go Celtics way that they have no control over for them to find a way to get into that top 4, top 5 conversation.
Fair conversation.
Yeah, I think that I think there's 6 because I would put the Knicks, the Cavs.
You got the Bucks in there or no?
No.
I would put maybe the same level as the Bucks. I'd put ahead of them the Knicks and the Cavs, the Hawks, the Magic, and the Pistons.
That's what I was forgetting to mention.
About his own team. That's crazy.
Yeah, Sherrod's
be humble.
That's
trying to be humble.
No, don't do that, Sherrod. You just forgot.
I'm trying to be humble.
That's a good.
And so I don't think with Detroit losing Dennis Schroeder and likely Malik Beasley, because I don't think Malik Beasley is going to play anywhere next year. I think they're not better. I know they re-signed Paul Reed and they brought in Karis LeVert. But I don't think Detroit's made great strides. But I think that the Celtics could be like a 6-7, because there's going to be a lot of teams who are in their realm. There's going to be let me see. There's going to be maybe Chicago. Who knows? Milwaukee,
for sure.
Philadelphia. Well, we don't know what to expect from them.
When do we ever know what to expect from them?
Yeah, we don't know what to expect if they're healthy, and we'll see how that goes. And then there's going to be some teams that we have no idea what the hell they're doing or what's going on with them, like Charlotte, Washington,
Toronto.
Chicago. Yeah, Toronto, Chicago, Brooklyn. We don't, like none of those teams are going to be good. Probably, maybe one of those teams might be a surprise. Maybe Charlotte if they can stay healthy. But those teams are going to be Tuesday. Those teams are going to be probably at the bottom of the East. Yeah. So the Celtics, I'd say, could be sixth. Yes.
Okay, I like that. Well, again, still so much more to come. I know I'm just teasing the rest of the summer for our audience, but again, we really don't know what this roster will look like until we actually hit opening day. So, by the way, for those of you that are listening, before we get out of here, a reminder, like I've said time and time again, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. It's free to do that, which is the best part. And for all of you that are watching the show on CLNS, just go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. One more thing, make sure you're turning on those notifications so that you know the instant a new video drops. And by the way, before we close out, wanted to give a shout out to the Boston Legacy, the newest professional team coming to Boston, the NWSL team. They won't play until 2026 in Boston, but I just got this hat today, so I figured I'd represent a little bit. So support all professional sports in Boston. But that's all we have for this week's episode. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast.
And if you don't support, you might get mollywopped. I'm just saying.
Period.
Right, ain't you thirsty? Get something to drink.
Cheers.
Gary didn't get the memo, clearly, again. Must have got mollywopped on the way to the
he had lemonade.
Oh, he got a damn jug. I hate y'all.